Good evening and welcome to the Monday, February 9th, 2026 Maplewood City Council Manager Workshop. City Clerk Sint, would you do the roll call for us, please?
Councilmember Lee.
Present.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Here.
Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
Here as well, thank you. Council members, is there a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Lee. The motion to approve our agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We have no unfinished business. The item that we have to discuss next is under new business, the 2026 Charitable Gambling Policy Review. Mr. Sable, is this, Lois Knudsen, excuse me, sorry. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lois Knudsen, the Senior Administrative Manager. I'm here tonight for us to talk about the charitable gambling policy. As you recall, we met last July to modify the previous plan. Just a brief reminder, the previous plan had been that we had 3 categories. Each of those categories had 2 focus areas, and they received funding on a rotating basis. So every 3 years, they could apply for funding. So in August of last year, we adopted the new policy, and the new policy kept those 3 categories, but what it did was each category got a third of the funding. And just a reminder, social supports and senior citizen services, youth programs and community engagement and events, and environment and natural resources, and safety programs. Also at that time, we said that when organizations are applying, they were required to select the specific funding category under which they were applying, and then also give us a detailed description of how those funds would be spent. It was decided that a maximum award amount of $7,500 would be imposed, and then eligibility for subsequent funding. It was decided that if you receive funds in 1 year under one category, the following year you could still receive funds, but you would need to apply under a different category. This is just a bit of an award history. Kind of through 26 through 2020, it was consistently $30,000 that was given out. 2021, there were less funds. It was about $15,000. And that year, it was decided that all funds would be given to the YMCA because they were doing a great food program during those COVID times. And then since then, the ones in green, that's when we had the rotating programs, rotating years. That really doesn't have anything to do with the funding available. But the funds varied from 30 up to 50, down to 40, and then up to 43. And then last year, there was $60,000 available, so a lot of money. Just a reminder that those award amounts, that money is driven by what is in our fund, and the fund comes from the organizations, charitable organizations throughout Maplewood that do charitable gambling, pull tabs, bingo. 10% of what they earn, they have to give to the city. And then you get to decide what is done with that money. But that's why the amounts vary so greatly. It really has, though, since COVID, there are more organizations doing charitable gambling, and the funds are up. They're quite a bit up. Just to look at the award ranges. So this first section prior to 2021, that was when we had an open process. Smallest award given was $200. Largest was $4,120, with an average of $1,500. This middle area, that is when we had the rotating categories. Smallest amount given was $500. Largest was $20,000, with an average of $4,899. And then this year's plan, smallest award given was $1,600, largest was $7,300, and an average of $3,750. Now, if you note, the average award actually dropped this year because we had so many applications. Applicants awarded, this is how many applications we received versus how many got funding. Pretty consistently up until this year, everybody got something. Except in 2021 when we really didn't do a process at all because of COVID. But this year, we had 32 applicants and only 16 received funding. Now, one of the reasons for that is because if we look at here, option one, the equal allocation, where each of those categories received a third of the money. So each group got $20,000. Well, environment, natural resources, and safety programs, there were 3 applications. So those people, everybody got almost everything they asked for. The second group, social supports and senior citizens services, there were 11 applications. So they still did pretty well. But then the last group, the youth programs and community engagement and events, there were 19 applications. So $133,000 of requests, and we had $20,000 to give. So that's the group that suffered the most this last time. So option one would be to keep that program. Option two would be to consider doing a proportional allocation, where you would look at, okay, 3 applications in this group, that's about 10%. So they would get 10% of the available funds. So we could do it like that, or we could go back to an open allocation, where you throw out the categories, and they just, you award the applications based on their merit across all categories, and nothing is given preference over anything else. Another option not on here would be to return to a rotating schedule. Now, when I listen to your suggestions, some of the things I'd like you to consider, the distribution of funds. That's the big one, I think, that we're toying with right now. But other one would be application requirements. That's where they're required to tell us what category they're using it for. If you throw out the categories, that wouldn't be an option. We wouldn't need it. And then maximum awards, we decided that would be $7,500. We can look at what that looks like, and if you think that should stay or go higher, go lower. And then eligibility for subsequent funding. If you get money one year, should you get money the next year? Something to consider. So I am open to hearing your ideas and take notes. And then I assume if we can come to a consensus, then this would be brought back at probably the next meeting just for approval. We would amend the policy and approve it. You may decide you want a few months to think about this. We don't do anything until the fall. We advertise in September and accept applications, and then all the decision-making is done in October. So let me know what you think.
Thank you, Lois, for putting this together for us. I have to say, the one thing that I want to try to avoid tonight is unintended consequences. If you recall, it sounded like a good idea to just split it into thirds and make it all equal, but we didn't really anticipate that we would have, what was it, 19?
19.
In one category and
yeah.
only 3 in another category.
Exactly.
You know, I've been on the council long enough, and I think Kathleen and maybe even Rebecca, you too, remember when we had no categories, it was just simply open. I just want to try to avoid unintended consequences, because if you recall, that imbalance, because we had already committed to certain rules, we were not going to change those rules. That's what led us to this discussion today. And it's something that my goal is to try to help as many nonprofits as we can. And I have to say that one of my criteria in making decisions is to try to fully fund someone's request so that they can actually have a meaningful result. If they come to us and they want $5,000, if we award $500, it probably means that they're not going to accomplish the goal that they set out. And so those are the things that I'm concerned about, and I want to avoid an unintended consequence like we had. I see we've got a light already. Councilmember Lee, your thoughts?
I just want to ditto that piece. I think last year we had good intentions. It just turned out to be really interesting at the end. Thanks for the presentation. You know, I think back to, funding. There's always people who need and want to do great things, but we just don't have enough money to give folks. As I look through this and I'm thinking through the applications in the pool that we got last year, we had a really diverse group of applications and folks from outside of Maplewood, folks who are in here. We were very intentional as a council in terms of how we were giving it back. I am interested in exploring, I like the idea. I don't like the free-for-all in terms of just no categories. I think the council prior has made very good, had good conversations, and I think the criteria that we have in terms of categories, social support, senior citizen, youth programs, community engagement and events, and environment and natural resources, I think these are great categories. I do like the option of having an open allocation, but having and allowing people to choose from these category. So that way, when we're reviewing as a council, we have the option, because we keep in mind, I allocated X, Y, and Z to support social services already. What else can I give to the other organizations? So that way, and the reason why I like open allocation is that opens the door for nonprofits to apply. And we are constantly, the city of Maplewood is constantly in people's mind. People are thinking about our grant on a year-to-year basis. They might not get it this year, but they might get it the following year. So the whole purpose of this is just to keep the city of Maplewood at top of mind. So I think that way, as council, I think we've made really responsible decisions here. Having an open allocation with category, we can make the allocations on our end.
One other thing I would like to point out is that those two groupings, when it was, let's see, social supports, when these were determined, what they tried to do is take something that would get a lot of applications and pair it with something that wouldn't get as many. So we could also remove the pairings and just have the 6 categories. And like you said,
Yeah.
at least indicate what category you're applying under so that we can see that.
I like that.
Councilmember Cave.
I really like that idea too, and that's one of the things I wanted to keep the categories, but only for our sake, so we can look at where we're allocating. And it's also nice when, for future, if we change things, we can see which categories are maybe a lot, which ones can be broken up. So for record keeping, I think that's a good idea too. Maximum award, I like that one. Application requirements. That one is fine with me. The eligibility one is one I wanted to look at, and that was, I talked with Mike about that, about adding something in there. I know Mike talked about Maplewood itself, the city cannot apply anything in the city, but I talked to him also about like public entities, because this should really be for nonprofit, and I mean, Mike, I don't know if you can.
Mike?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and council members. As we talked about it at the end of last year, I didn't think it was appropriate that city staff applications would jump ahead of somebody else that was potentially more deserving, and so we withdrew any of those. And I think there's, in the policy document itself, if you look at sort of section number 8, you could just say no local government unit may solicit a donation from the application, because that would be, right, schools technically fund schools, and they could just fund them as they are. It's just like we would do rec programming. And so you could make a kind of a blanket statement that this is open for nonprofit and community-driven entities, and at a staff level, we'd certainly be open to that. It's not, we don't get a lot of applications from 622. It's a handful.
It's usually about, I think it was about 8 to 10.
But it's usually,
It's usually parent booster groups.
Yeah.
And as a former parent, the school doesn't fund that stuff.
yeah.
I recall that we've gotten applications for school field trips, the big field trips.
Yep.
We've gotten applications for the robot group,
Robotics, yep.
robotics. We've gotten applications
Band.
for band and for choir or performing choir. We've gotten applications for the District 622 Education Foundation, but they are a 501c3. They are not, they would qualify under the nonprofit.
Yeah,
So
they
we
would.
get enough applications from schools. So what are you thinking in terms of schools?
Oh, it's a conversation for the council to determine. I was the first answer. And the second one, I think, is if there is a dedicated club that is a separate legal entity from the unit, I think that's right, potentially may be appropriate. But in an ideal world, this is intended to be for community groups based in the community to drive things towards serving people in Maplewood. So this is one of those gray area items.
Yeah.
But certainly we can write any policy that gets consensus of the council.
And with that, thank you. Thank you for doing my mumbo jumbo. And then that's where it was kind of hard to explain. It's like, I don't like excluding things, but it's also, we have so many that it's time, we do have to rein it in a little bit and work with the community and nonprofits. So we really, because they don't have any other avenues like other people do.
Right.
So that's why I really think this is an avenue. Sometimes these are, some of the groups in there, this is their one and only. This isn't like they have other options or to go to parents or, other community things. This is it. So I was hoping we could do a little tighter on the eligibility for that. And then other than that, I think that, I'm open for open funding also. I think we kind of saw a little bit what it was like when we did the categories. So if we eliminate the categories but leave them, per like.
Have them select one.
Yeah, have them select one for our purpose, but leave it open so we at least give decent funding to people who want it. Still have the 3 people have to decide, but have the awards be able to be a little bit more.
One thing that I think we did, and I think compliments go probably to Mr. Sharon out there for advertising this. I think that we made certainly a different effort. If you take a look at the number of applications that we had this last year, that was a distinct increase. Council members, I'd like to have you weigh in on eligibility for subsequent funding, because we certainly want to get the money out there and help as many people as we can. What do you think about subsequent, if you get an allocation in 1 year, should you be able to come back the next year? Thoughts on that? Councilmember Juniman?
Well, that wasn't what I was going to
No, but we'll go around and do a round robin and I'll ask everyone. But what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that I thought we could at least think about the proportional allocation rather than the open allocation. The proportional allocation.
And keep this 3 categories or keep 6 categories?
Well, I kind of like the 3 myself, but if you want 6, whatever. I like the 3, but
Okay.
I just think the proportional allocation would have saved us this past year if we had said something before we got to the,
That certainly would
Final
have
roundup.
avoided the issue that we had. And quite frankly, it was a great issue to have. We had more applications than ever, and we had more money to distribute than ever. And I have to say, given the success of, a local bingo hall and some of the other charitable gambling events that happen around the city, I think that it's probably safe to say we're going to continue with that level of funding. So what we decide tonight is going to be really important. So let's start with you, Councilmember Cave. What do you think about the eligibility for subsequent funding?
I think it should be tighter. I mean,
For, if you get it 1 year,
Oh,
should you
that
be able
one.
to apply for
Yes.
another year?
Yes.
And can you apply, do you have to apply for different categories or not?
not necessarily, no.
Okay.
I'm fine with it being open. I think that we can see what we did the year before. And, if somebody, I think I'm fine with them applying again.
Okay. Councilmember Juniman, how are you?
As long as, can I add a caveat? As long as I'm fine with that, as long as we have stricter parameters on who can apply. It's not just, keep it in our community and nonprofit, and we have tighter restraints so we don't have 25 applicants from all over. That to me, then I'm fine with having anybody do it every year, as long as we're just doing community and nonprofits.
The criteria according to our rules, the first priority, I'm looking at page 3 of 14, should be given to City of Maplewood domiciled organizations. The second priority, which is what I think we saw an increase in last year, to funding requests from other organizations which are used primarily for the benefit of Maplewood residents. So that we had some outside, they weren't necessarily domiciled here, but they served Maplewood residents. And then distributed, those are right in our rules. So in terms of tightening it up, we already indicate that athletic groups will not be funded. And I think we talked about, the city not being,
Yeah.
city requests not being funded as well. So those two groups, no athletics, no city funds, or no city groups. What other kind of tightening are you
Well, I
envisioning?
guess I was looking more at the District 622. I felt there was a lot in there that I've had kids go to school, and you're asking us here for money when there's other avenues they have. So I don't feel like the schools really coming here asking for money, the public schools. I just feel like that gets to be a lot.
Okay, but if it's a 501c3, if it is a nonprofit,
Then we'd have to,
okay.
but I don't know if.
Want clarity on that.
I guess that would be hypocritical to say, we want nonprofits, but
Right.
then there's nonprofit.
Okay.
It's just, when you're asking for field trips and things, that, I think we need to limit that kind of stuff so it doesn't confuse even us coming in here and there's more things. Those are the kind of tightening that I would want,
Okay.
not the nonprofit.
Councilmember Juniman, anything else you want to add? Subsequent years.
That's a yes and no question.
Okay, explain, please.
Well, there are times when it would make sense. And then there are other times when you think, wait a minute, we just gave them this lot of money and there are all these other people needing it. That's a tough one. I guess I would say no.
No to subsequent years. Okay. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor, and Councilmember Juniman. I'll shine some light on it a little bit too. In the work that I do, I'm in grant making, and I think the challenge in grant making is it's a no for me. I don't think they should be able to apply the following year because there are folks who are just really good at grant writing. So if we give them a grant this year, next year they're going to write again. If their grant outshines the folks who are trying to get some extra funding, they're never going to get it because they're just not a good grant writer. So I think if we're going to be intentional in giving back to our community, we have to have a limitation where if they get it 1 year, that way it narrows them out. Next year we have an opportunity to give it to someone else. They could come the following year, but directly the year after they should not qualify.
And does that, by not, if we don't, let me go back.
Yep.
I think that I heard you say that you were not interested in categories.
No,
Just-
they could do we have categories. They would not qualify at all to apply the following year. It doesn't matter if they change category, because that way we give an opportunity to some other organization
All
to
right.
apply. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Villavicencio.
I think that I would be okay if they did it under for the second year, they did it under a different category.
Okay.
Because I think that would help prevent some of the things that Councilmember Lee's talking about too. And it would force them hopefully to be a little bit more creative in what they're requesting and not just keep putting out that same grant proposal.
Okay. And what are your thoughts concerning categories? Keeping the categories
Oh, yeah. I
as
think-
they are?
I would go with the 3 or the 6. I'm fine with either.
So and in terms of then, based on your suggestions, are you in favor of proportional allocations then? If we get 15 applications for environmental and natural resources and only 3 for social supports, should we also then balance instead of a third splitting, which is what we did this year?
I think that's a challenging determination too. I mean, I like the idea of us internally knowing the categories and then saying what category there are in, but not maybe limiting it with the funds. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, we have the same issue that we had this year, where we
Yeah.
had, we fully funded, I think, social supports and senior citizens.
Environmental and natural resources and safety programs are the
Okay.
ones that got fully funded.
Okay,
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I would stay with that, like, I think the categories are important. So I think we should be mindful of trying to disperse that equally, but maybe not limiting it.
I don't, is that clear?
So you're saying have open allocations,
Yes. With.
but with
categories.
specifying categories, so
Yes.
you are aware of the
Yes.
categories, but we aren't saying this category only gets 10% of the money.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay.
Just add a suggestion.
Councilmember Lee?
Thank you. Can I just add a suggestion? Instead of creating 6 different categories, which I don't think is a bad idea either, but if we were to list like social support and senior citizen services, but under that, we can list items, examples like food access, basic needs, housing stability, senior transportation, wellness program. So give examples of what we would consider to fall under that category. So that way, there's just 3 to choose from, where would that create more confusion if we did it that way? Just thinking out loud.
Sure. Which is what we're all doing here. We're trying to reach some kind of consensus to avoid the issue. And I think we all have it in our hearts that we want to get this money out into the community, and how to do that in the fairest way possible. Mr. Sable?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Councilmember Lee, to your suggestion, I think when we do the announcement in September, we can say, here are examples of things that have been successful in the past as kind of a guide. So that'll help potential future grant writers understand a little bit of the things that we're looking for, the things that have been successful. It's kind of a guide. And we also do offer anybody that has a question, that we help them kind of figure out how to navigate it. So I think that's a good example, and we can do that.
That's good.
Councilmember Juniman?
Are we going to keep the question about a smaller amount? Would you accept a smaller amount, and would it be helpful?
That question has always been on there.
I know.
If you don't
I think
receive
we
your
should.
full-out request, will you still accept the funds? And they've always said yes.
Okay. So now we need to move towards some consensus here, because I think we're a little bit, we're not quite cohesive with, I think, helping Ms. Knutson on how to draft this new policy. Councilmember Lee?
I just had one other thing to add to the mix really quick. So 501c3 is the nonprofit category. There's a lot of smaller nonprofits that are sponsors or are sponsors of, or are a organizational sponsor, a smaller organization. Would we consider those if they are a sponsored organization?
Have we done that in the past?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, I just say like so 501c3 is a tax status, and we have to send the money to someone that qualifies under that tax status. How they manage it from their grant side is, like, as long as the payment gets to somebody and however they distribute it among there, and we're indifferent to that.
Okay.
We just have the single payment to the nonprofit entity. If they want to partner with a local group to work an event, they become employees of that said event. So yeah, that's how I would view it.
Okay.
So you're saying they would fall under someone else's 501c3?
Correct. There's a lot of organizations who will work
I
under
believe the
it.
Maplewood Monarchs do that. They fall under the higher State of Minnesota Special Olympics 501c3.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that opens up a lot of doors for a lot of
Yep.
new nonprofits. So if we can allow that to happen, but they should be a nonprofit that's not a brand new nonprofit. I think we want to make sure that we're giving money to an organization that it has some financial stability, so they're not just going to throw the money away.
Well, they don't get
they
the
don't get the
money
money.
until they spend the money.
Oh, yep, okay.
That's one thing to keep in mind, everyone, that we don't give the money out, that we get receipts They have to have spent the money, and then
Reimburse.
we reimburse that, only after getting receipts. So I think that that resolves that problem. And then the question would be, it's a little bit too subjective. Is 1 year enough? Is 2 years enough? Is 3 years enough? So I think that this way, we don't have any issues with that. They have to make the expense, and then we will reimburse it.
Works.
So council members, let's go back, and I think, Ms. Knutson, any guidance that you can give us would be very helpful. Categories. Are we going to ask people to identify their category? Because all of these little factors, we're going to go through each one of these and work through this. Right now, we've got 3 listed categories, and people last year had to identify which category they were applying for, because that also restricted them for the next year, that they couldn't reapply.
Correct.
So are we going to have categories? Because I think that is going to then weigh in on, allocations, and do we do proportional? So let's start off with categories. Councilmember Villavicencio, yes to categories or no to categories? Okay. And by categories, I mean the 3 that we already have.
Yeah.
Okay? Councilmember Lee?
It's a yes or category.
Okay, I will say yes to categories. Councilmember Juniman?
Yes.
Okay, so categories, we'll keep those 3 categories.
Okay.
In terms of application requirements, they have to identify which category they're applying for. Okay, Councilmember Villavicencio?
Yes.
Yes? Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
I say yes as well. Councilmember Juniman?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and Councilmember Cave, so we're going to ask that they identify their categories. The maximum award, and Lois, maybe, I have a question about this. The maximum award, I don't I think a lot of people were asking for the maximum award?
I would say at least half of them ask for the maximum award,
Okay.
the 7,500.
And if we were projected to get, let's say, the same amount next year, which is $60,000, I'm kind of comfortable with the 7,500 for another year.
I'm fine with that.
And obviously, if we get more money, maybe we could raise that up to even 10, but right now, I think 7,500, is that all right with
75 is
everybody? I
fine.
see a lot of heads shaking. Okay,
And
so
just
70
a point, nobody got the full 7,500 because of how it was split. The highest one was 7,300.
Okay. And then eligibility for subsequent funding. Councilmember Villavicencio.
What was that, what part?
Eligibility for subsequent funding. If you get it 1 year,
Oh.
can you do it in another category the next year? Or do you not, you're ineligible at all?
Yeah, my opinion is that you should be able to do it in a different category than next year.
Okay?
You
Councilmember Lee.
should not be able to.
Okay, so we have a difference there. I would go with a different category. Councilmember Juniman.
This is a yes/no question again. No.
Okay? Councilmember Cave.
Yes, in a different category.
Okay, so we have the majority, 3 in a different category. And now, in terms of the distribution, this is where we need to talk about the proportional question. Equal allocation, proportional allocation, or just open allocation? Councilmember Villavicencio? Open allocation, okay, Councilmember
Mine's
Lee?
open allocation also.
I'd say proportional allocation.
Proportional.
Open.
Okay, so
For open.
3 open allocations. Councilmember, Mr. Sable.
Heading into the meeting, this is one of those items that could have gone in any number of directions, similar to how we did it 2 weeks ago. I think I appreciate how you work through this and compromise and massage and share what you think and change your mind. And so this was incredibly helpful. I think we got everything we wanted for that. So we will bring forward a revised charitable gambling policy to you at some future date, maybe
Within the
meet-
next month.
Yeah, within the next month. And we will continue to then plan for promotion in August and September. And then let's hope we have this is a good problem. We have people in the community who want to do good things and we are able to fund them. So keep that in mind.
It's a great opportunity for us.
Yeah,
Lois, does that give you enough?
it does. Thank
Okay.
you very much for a good discussion and good input. It made it very easy.
Thanks, Lois. All right, next we have the MCC discussion. Mr. Darrow.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to introduce Jennifer and Chris, who are here from LSE. They're going to provide an overview on the pre-design project and some discussions that they've had throughout the last week.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, council members. Thank you for having us here this evening. I'm Jennifer Anderson Tuttle. I'm the Principal Director of our Public Sector, and I've had the honor of speaking with each of you over the last week or so. And we're happy to be here this evening to share a little bit about the conversations we've had, as well as some other information on the project. I'm here tonight with Christopher Labs.
Yep. And I'm Chris Labs, project architect and associate with LSE Architects.
Thank you. Just a little bit about, oh, and I'm not advancing. There we go. So there we are. A little bit about our firm. We are an architecture and interior design firm. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary this year as LSE. I'm celebrating my 35th year doing this work. And 30th year working with Mohammed Lawal, who is our majority owner at LSE Architects. So very excited to be here with you this evening. Chris is going to talk a little bit about our schedule and process, and then I'll talk more about the feedback we got.
Yeah, so our schedule here is aggressive, but we are very confident that we're going to come to a really satisfying conclusion and for the pre-design here. We're already in week 4 of a 13-week process. And so far, the majority of our work has been in data gathering. As we've been looking at the existing building, we have the plans as they were designed in its construction in 1992, and starting to work on programming in some of our basic diagrams. The next 2 phases that we're going to be working through are going to be coming up with the preliminary concept diagrams. This is where we're thinking in a wide number of ideas, many of which probably will be quickly dismissed, but really trying to get out every single opportunity that you might have on the site. No idea is a good or a bad one at this point. We are then going to move into the next phase where we really are going to be narrowing those down into ones that can then be priced and can come up with something that's going to give you that real idea of scale of success on the project, and ultimately some general concepts to give you an idea of what it could look like, what the programming could be at a very high level. Through the process, we're going to be coming to leadership within your city, as well as reporting back to you at these sessions through all the way until ultimately the city council meeting that will be on April 13th, which is really the decision period. And that will be where we'll have the full priced option. As we've mentioned, the City Council, there will be updates for you. We're also going to be meeting with your executive leadership team. We're going to have 4 work sessions and workshops where we're going to be coming through, presenting those really wide concepts, trying to narrow down with your leadership. And then, very importantly, the community engagement. We believe we're going to have 2 open houses, but we're also understanding that this is a time where people may not be comfortable leaving their houses, may not be wanting to spend a lot of time at a community meeting, that we're also going to be creating a virtual option so that you can get feedback from everybody in the city who would like to make their voices heard. And then working and hearing from you whether there are other community engagement opportunities that you want us to have. Looking at your site, we've started looking at what kind of are the constraints. One of course, being the building itself. It is very segmented in 4 pieces, but it's on a really large site. It's connected to the Gateway Trail. It's obviously adjacent to your other city-owned properties. It's on 2 very well-trafficked streets, and then has those views, the bike connections. There's just a lot of opportunity on the site itself. There is ample parking. So those are some of the things that we're starting to look at, just very much as a high level, understanding that there's a lot of ability for movement on that site. Looking at the building itself, as I mentioned, it's currently very segmented. You have the challenge of multiple entrances, multiple levels. Safety and security is something that is very important in these kinds of community spaces. And so working through some of those challenges, really considering how we can make a building that's operational for you, understanding that at some point in time, you're going to have a beautiful new space, and you're going to have to run it, and it's going to have to be successful. And then looking at a lot of trends within community, sports and recreation, health, wellness, and that idea of it being a community hub that people can gather.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to share just a brief update on some of the feedback that we received from you all when we asked you some of the questions on the survey, and we've also surveyed some of the leadership team at the YMCA as well. So one of the things we asked you was to think, just a simple little question, what does this facility need to look like in the next 50 years? And the descriptions we got of what kinds of spaces and how the facility would be used over the next 50 years was really dominated by the word community. You each said the word community multiple times in that discussion. Words like it needed to be a place that felt welcoming to your entire community and all of your residents was important and came out. Connected was another thing that we heard quite a bit. A facility and a site that felt connected in the ways that it should, right? And so those are some of the challenges that you're faced with also. A space for seniors, a space for youth. The word flexibility came out a number of times. Again, as Chris mentioned, safety is a big concern with a building like this, and you each shared that. A lot of the details that supported all these words were things like culturally connected, wellness, fitness. Those were details really behind community gathering, connected, adaptability. And then even some of the events you all pulled out. Pickleball was identified as a function. And then the cultural importance of the building was noted as well. We asked you a little bit about what were the things that needed to be addressed in your current building. And this was, nobody held back. This was almost the opposite of what we heard that you wanted for the next 50 years, right? We heard that what was to be worked on, the design. The building is an impediment to what you're trying to do today, is what came out time and time again in the comments. You have a very divided, as Chris mentioned, into quadrants building, difficult to deal with, difficult to secure. It feels very unwelcoming when users come into maybe not the right floor, maybe not the right door, and are not sure how to quite navigate where they need to be. There's some accessibility challenges that are a part of that, and a site that's divided up like it is. Hot mess came up a couple times. Outdated. We heard the building felt outdated. It felt worn. You can read. I won't go into any of the other words. You get the gist of the feedback. We asked you about how you felt about the partnership with the YMCA, and generally people felt pretty optimistic about the relationship. The relationship clearly could tip, depending on what happens. So financial stability of organizations, programs that are chosen to be run, all of those things are important, but people seemed really optimistic and generally pretty happy. I know the YMCA seemed very happy to be here as well and felt that they had an important role to play in the community, and council tended to agree with that generally, so. We ask you to think a little bit about the importance of each of these programmatic spaces in a community center of the future. a new community center, and we ask you to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. Some of you broke the rules a little bit and added a 0 in there, but on a scale of 1 to 5 was generally what we went with. And the most important space tended to be meeting spaces. And so that's consistent with the idea of community, kind of jumping out as a number one importance. Workout spaces were closely behind that. I think workout spaces and banquet halls, gymnasiums, and indoor play structures and pools, pretty close, right? They're all pretty close. Pretty far below all of those was the idea of a theater. That was a real programmatic element that seems to be in question as to its relationship in a future center, in part due to inflexibility and in part due to some people are just not as familiar at this point with what are the schedules, who all is using it. So there's some things that we can help discover in this process and help you be more brought up to speed on some of that. We posed the question, should we be considering the idea of a new facility if it was both cost-effective and transformative for the site, given that we know some of the constraints of your existing building and your site? And we heard from each of the people we asked an absolute yes. Although you all qualified it in a little different way. We heard yes, and at a different site. We heard yes, I would be open to it. Yes, we could sell this site. Yes, I'd consider it, 100%. The 3 functions are an issue, so yes, because someone is recognizing these are an issue, these are a challenge. We heard a 1 yes, but. It's my least favorite right now, so it needs to be looked at, though. And a yes if it's what the people want, so recognizing we need to do some engagement, and 1 was just a yes, so. So we'll be looking at that as an option. We asked about who and how should we be conducting some of this community engagement. We have ideas of our own, but given your familiarity with the community and how you have engaged in the past, what are your thoughts? The who's, we heard first and foremost, current members should definitely be consulted. We have a number of easy ways we can do that. Seniors are thought to be a real backbone right now in the community center. New residents, so that we can get a better understanding of the community today. What does that mean today? Demographically, it's different than it was when the building was built. Also the broader community, so looking at the north, looking at the south. Members and users of the YMCA and Ashland Theater, so involve them in the discussion. Childcare was brought up, that we should be talking to some childcare groups, and can we involve youth? Is there a way to involve the youth? And how? There's a variety of ways. A couple ways we've identified already, these virtual and in-person open houses, but we recognize this is an unprecedented time in our communities, and going beyond just those ideas is probably important. Listening sessions were suggested, and doing that at a variety of times of days to make it more accessible for folks. Perhaps a survey, in-person meetings that we've already mentioned, pop-ups, so trying to take input gathering to people in different places where they might be, different groups. Social media might be a good way to reach people while some peoples and some communities are hunkered down right now. Mailings is another opportunity to help inform folks who are maybe not comfortable coming out, and making sure that we're doing multilingual information, and meetings was also suggested. And so we're anxious to hear if you all have any other thoughts or ideas tonight after having some time with some of these questions. And with that, we would open it up for any discussion or questions you might have.
Thank you very much for, certainly I enjoyed talking with you and sharing my thoughts, and it was I think a great place to start. I'm excited to hear what our community has to say about their vision for our Maplewood Community Center. Council members, any questions for either Jennifer or Chris? Councilmember Villavicencio.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. I enjoyed talking with you too. In the outreach section of your presentation, it says 2 in person and 2 virtual. I was thinking, is there any events, and maybe this is more of a question for staff, is there any events that we're having in the timeline that they'll be working that they could just kind of be built into the program, like if it's a park event or something, that they could have a table?
Mr. Sharon has that answer.
Depends how long, I'm Joe, with the Communications Department, it depends on what your timeline is. The city has a variety of outreach events, one's coming up. If the weather holds up, this is Saturday, at our Skating with Public Safety. We also have an Easter egg hunt that we do, and then into the summer, we have 2 or 3 community events that gather the hundreds of people.
This is going to be by the end of April. I do know that we've got our Maplewood cleanup in April.
April 25th.
Okay. Mr. Sable, do you have any others to add into that?
You know, it's funny that you should say that. I was actually pulling up the forecasted council agenda, so there aren't any obvious ones, but what I can suggest is whatever materials LSE creates to get a feedback tool, we can kind of have at the ready. So I think it would be, like, for example, our board and commission liaisons could have a standing discussion with board and commission members to get additional feedback. So I think whatever tool they give us to gather feedback, we can organically gather, and that's kind of maybe our pledge, because we're going to meet with different people than you are, and you never know when it's going to work, and so we'll just be adaptable and gather more as we can.
That'd be great.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. And I mentioned it in our conversation already, but I think being intentional and being over by Rice and Larpenteur community, down in South Maplewood area, it's going to be important. But I think for the community engagement component of it, I think having something visual for our finance conversation, we have the little thing where you drop a little, what is it, a coin into a little tube. So I think having something visual like that might be helpful, and people might be more engaging in that component. So I think being present with that should help.
Some interactive.
Our finance director is the one who
That's the point.
created the drop-down with the coin.
That's nice.
Councilmember Cave.
I think Mike answered it, but I was just going to say, even how you're involved with the churches and all the church leaders, but that's just stuff that you're going to have. All those people can be given that opportunity too, and then share it with their churches. That's an easy way we can do stuff like that.
Great idea. Any other questions for Jennifer or Chris? Okay. Anything else that you want to tell us?
No, thank you. We will be coming back with updates shortly, and we look forward to it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sable.
I just want to say to the team, thank you for doing what you're doing. We know that this is a sprint in a lot of the work that you do. This is considered really fast kind of work, and so they've been really responsive. And Mike Darrow has done a really good job kind of corralling and coordinating behind the scenes. So I appreciate all the work that goes into that, because it is the legislative session is upon us next week, and it's coming quickly, and it's a mad sprint between here and May, and so we'll be ready when the time comes. So thank you guys for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council members, we have concluded our agenda for tonight, so we are adjourned. Be back at 7.